This is the state of the nation. Rifa Mwanga. We are deliberate, we are reasonable, we are uncensored. The state of the nation with Henry Ssali. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are calling us, you are tuning in from. My name is Henry Ssali, and this is the state of the nation. I am privileged to serve you this evening, this morning, this afternoon. So today we are going to examine one question, a question that sits at the heart of Uganda's political future. What happens when military logic increasingly shapes civilian institutions? This discussion is not about opposing the military. Every nation needs a professional army. The issue today is whether military institutions remain subordinate to constitutional authority or whether civilian institutions increasingly bend around military power. For over 60 years, Uganda has repeatedly turned to military solutions for political problems. From the 1966 crisis to Amini's military state, to the Bush War, to the contemporary debates surrounding military courts, civilian governance, political succession, and the growing influence of security institutions within Uganda's political landscape. The question is no longer whether Uganda is militarized. Rather, it is how much militarization can a republic absorb before civilian institutions lose their independence. Before discussing the current events, we're going to start with the problem, but there are so many things that are happening on Uganda's political landscape. As you can see, people are getting abducted, not just strong, powerful men, but also seniors, our seniors, women. Senior Honorable Dr. Miriam Matembe has been missing a couple of days now. I know of 3 other women that have been abducted, arrested, and I understand Sarah Birete and the other lady have been released. But we also know that the fourth estate is under attack. NTV, Spark TV, and the like, they're all being stopped to speak. So what are you going to do about that? Are you ready to just continue watching what's going on without your participation in these conversations? I'm going to invite the folks who are joining us today. Dr. Stella is with us. Mr. Egesa will be joining us shortly. And I've just heard from Honorable Medard Sseggona. But first, Dr. Stella Nyanzi is with us here today. Dr. Stella, how are you doing where you are right now? How are you watching the state of our nation's affairs? And how are they affecting you? As a woman, there's a couple of women that have been taken to custody, arrested, abducted. How are you feeling right now?
Right. Good afternoon. Well, I suppose it's good morning in Toronto. Hi,
Yeah.
Henry Ssali. It's good afternoon in Germany where I am. We are at 39 degrees, so I'm baking. In terms of how I am, it's very hot here, and the temperature outside is very similar to the temperature in my brain. My head is boiling, particularly because, as you've said, there are continued abductions, kidnaps of Ugandans. And I think for me as a woman in Uganda, it is terrifying to think that Honorable Dr. Miriam Matembe, her home was intruded upon by military as well as two women in Laia. Part of the problem for me is that our private property, our homes are being intruded and invaded by men with guns, many times wearing UPDF, CMI, SFC uniform, and they don't come in peace. They come, they break into our homes, they climb over perimeter walls, supposed to keep away enemies, supposed to keep us private, and then they break down our doors. Sometimes they kick them down. They vandalize our homes. They take away our communication gadgets. Sometimes take away the gadgets of our children too, as happened to Dr. Sarah Birete earlier in the year. And then they take away people violently. And the idea that Dr. Sarah Birete and Eunice Musime have been released doesn't give me any solace. It doesn't give me any comfort. It doesn't give me any assurance or reassurance as a Ugandan woman, because even before they were released, there was an intrusion, an invasion. Something happened to their homes by the military. And you said we didn't come to question the military in Uganda. I don't want to question the military in Uganda. As a Ugandan, I know that we need to be protected from external intrusion. Our borders have to be protected by the military. I really look up to the work of a professional army, which we were promised. Part of the social contract we have with Museveni and his NRM or NRMO is that they would provide a professional army that replaced NRA or replaced all the others that came before. And the release of Sarah and Eunice does not give me Miriam Matembe. She's still at large. The release of Sarah and Eunice this afternoon does not bring back Eddie Mutwe or Sauda Madada or Doreen or Olivia or all the other women who are political prisoners who are taken away from us, or Yasin Mashete or Eddie Mutwe or Sam Mugumya. The release of Eunice and Sarah, if I allow that to be a consolation prize, it allows me to forgive those who dehumanized our persons as women, as Ugandan men, and our children in our homes when they come and take us away by abduction, by kidnap. So when you say to me, "How are you, Stella?" I am really angry, really angry at this military that invades our homes. We saw it doing the same thing to Nalongo, Bukwago. They came into her private space, but we saw it happening to Bobby when Bobby wasn't around. You know, the way they broke into Bobby Chagulanyi's house is the very same way they took away Lina Zedriga, and they took away Jacqueline, and they took away all these women who've been abducted. Like, releasing Sarah and Eunice does not give me any consolation, because if I allow to be consoled, it means that I'm saying it's okay to come into our homes and kidnap us. simply because 2 women were released. And I'm saying, no, it's not okay. It's not acceptable. But alongside Sarah Birete and Eunice Musime, there was also the abduction of Susan Nsibirwa, the director of the Nation Media Group. Susan went to Gaza High School with me. She was, I think, 2 years ahead of me. I know Susan Nsibirwa person. I know her as a journalist, a professional, a manager, a woman in leadership, right? And why must she be kidnapped and taken away to God knows where? Simply because of her profession. Just like the lawyers are saying Lukwago is being victimized and criminalized because of doing his work as a lawyer. Susan Nsibirwa, likewise, is being penalized simply because she's doing her work, which is to give news to the world based on what's happening in Uganda. And the CDF Muhoozi Kainerugaba wants to become a censor to what news goes out of Uganda. He wants praise singers to be given permits and licenses to practice as journalists. But those who are critical, such as Susan Nsibirwa and all the other journalists at NTV, at Daily Monitor, at Spark TV, at Dembe FM, and all the other outlets that have been shut down simply because they're critical and they show Muhoozi in his bad light. Therefore, Susan Nsibirwa is at large, kidnapped during the besiege of Daily Monitor.
Daily Monitor, NTV, Spark TV. What does this mean? Like when the army decides to shut down the fourth estate, when the fourth estate is under attack, how do citizens, or how should citizens behave? And what does that mean for the other members of the fourth estate who are quiet right now about the shutdown of their colleagues? How do we manage that kind of behavior from our CDF or from the army behaving like this, shutting down communication between the people and the fourth estate? Do you think do you think MK is trying to create a crisis so that he can come in as the savior?
So when you say to me, how do we manage it? I think for me, first of all, I was really keen to understand what has UCC, the Uganda Communications Council, that's mandated to regulate, manage all communication outlets in Uganda, what they have said so far. And they've been silent, right? I haven't seen any statement on what I want to make a pronouncement is illegal. There are ways in which media houses are switched off. There are processes that are mandated by law through which a journalist who has committed a crime loses their practice license. Yeah. And so the fact that the Uganda Communications Council, the UCC, has been silent, yet they are mandated to regulate, to give licenses, to give permission even to even foreign correspondence. The fact that they've been silent around the closure, the switching off of NTV and the closure of Daily Monitor and Dembe FM and Spark TV, I think for me, one raises important questions about the law managing these media houses. The fact that the military can come in and by order of a tweet, the CDF declares, I want them off. He gave about 2 weeks ago, I think, two meetings ago with you, the State of the Nation. I remember we discussed very briefly about his warning to both Daily Monitor and to NTV. So he'd already given indications that he wasn't very pleased with the sort of coverage they were giving. Now, when he actually goes ahead last night and maybe 4 a.m. in the morning, Ugandan time, declares that he's shutting them down. He's got approval of his father. None of this is with keeping. He's not consulting UCC. He's not going through due process. He hasn't summoned them. He hasn't opened up cases against them in court. Previously, Onyango Obo and Andrew Mwenda and others in the Daily Monitor were sued when they wrote truths that the government was not pleased about. They opened cases against them, but we haven't seen this happening. We just saw tweets, and then there was military presence, and then there was closure of Daily Monitor, and there was switch off of all the others. And I think for me that in terms of managing it as Ugandans, we have to say this is lawlessness. It is outside the legal regime governing media houses, governing journalists and their right to work, governing freedom of speech, media freedom, freedom of expression. And I think that the question, when we identify the illegality, that one is using military might, one is abusing officers, CDF, to take critical voices off the media profession and take away their licenses, take away their permits to practice. I think if we first of all identify this as an illegality, as a crime, perhaps we know how to proceed. Then the question will be, how does one manage a lawless criminal CDF? That is the question before Ugandans. It's the very same questions that civil society organizations are going to have to ask themselves when Miriam Matembe is taken away as a civil society organization founder. She's among the founders. The feminist movement should ask themselves the same question. When a granny, an elder in the feminist movement is taken away illegally from us, how do we challenge the criminality? So the question around when media expression is violated illegally by a gunman, a leading gunman, put in that position of leadership by his father, by the money of the family, by the power of the PLU and the endorsement of the parliamentarian leaders that he appointed. That is the question we have to face as Ugandans. It's much more than just freedom of expression. It's really the question about how does a criminal chief of defense forces who is getting away with crime against Ugandans who are still innocent because courts have not produced them as guilty after evidence and prosecution. This CDF, how do we manage a criminal CDF? And today it is the Monitor newspaper, it's the NTV, it's Miriam Matembe, it's a few individuals, but that is the question that's going to become important, that is important in Uganda. And
let us go back. Let us go back to Honorable Dr. Miriam Matembe. We have all known Dr. Matembe as an advocate for women empowerment, an advocate for ethics and integrity. This is a lady who is not changing now. She has been like this. Even in her days as minister, she always stood up. For some of us who have had an opportunity to read her book, we see that whatever she says in real life is the same thing that she has said in her books, in her writings. She's been consistent with keeping not just government accountable, but also her peers accountable. She's not the kind of person that is going to keep quiet when wrong things are being done. What are your thoughts about the fact that she was missing? Her home, as you said, was invaded. She has been missing since then. We understand she has been captured, but there's no proper communication of where she is right now. Of course, a few people have managed to come out to say a few things. Of course, trying to tell government or whoever has Miriam Matembe to set her free. We saw the message from the Kazoras trying to persuade the the CDF or whoever might have access to Miriam Matembe to set her free. We have seen the message from Honorable Adongo To. We have also seen messages from the diaspora. I'm going to play, there's a particular message that I'm going to play from the diaspora that has been advocating for the release of Miriam Matembe. And I want to know what your thoughts about what people are saying right now, what we need to do to ensure that Miriam Matembe is safe and available.
I have, for a long time, told myself not to get involved into Ugandan politics. I have tried to shut up. I have, for a long time, told myself not to get involved into Ugandan politics. I have tried to shut up for a very long time. You see things and you're like, I hope, I pray that this is not true. But this thing about Dr. Miriam Matembe disappearing, I don't think I can be quiet anymore. Where are we going? What's wrong with our leaders? Honestly speaking, you don't want anyone to voice out their concerns? We are all parents. Let me ask, do you at any time, whoever is doing whatever they are doing, adapting people, making people feel unsafe all the time, do you at any time think about what your children are going to say about you? The world is watching. Your kids are watching. What's wrong? We have supported you all our lives. Now we keep quiet and don't tell you that what you're doing is not right? Honashi. Seriously. Relatives, friends, advisors, colleagues. What's wrong with all of you people? You let things go like that. No, this is wrong. Miriam Matembe needs to be freed. Now, Jesus.
Right. So that's one of the voices from the diaspora. The person in the video is Dr. Joan Bavuga. She lives in the United States. Obviously, you have seen that she's frustrated with what is going on. She says that she and her family have been supporters of the movement, the NRM. At some point, she had even completely given up on saying anything about government or against government. She has said a lot, like her submission was about 9 minutes, but I cut it down to 3 minutes. And I hope you have gotten the message. How do we encourage other folks to join this movement of speaking up? What is everything wrong that is going on in our country, especially that something that is being orchestrated by the military? how do we encourage folks around us to speak out loudly without fear or favor? And do you think, and what are your thoughts about Odongoto's submission as well? The question is, where is Dr. Matembe? We still don't know where she is. Unlike other abductees that have been, for the most part, advertised on someone's Twitter handle, we really don't know where she is. Of course, he has talked a little bit about her, but he hasn't told us where Dr. Miriam Matembe is. Any thoughts on that?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I want to thank Joanne very much because of her courage to speak out. People used to say it was ugly women in the opposition who spoke out against the regime and its misgovernance. It's wonderful that a beautiful, light-skinned, well-looking, middle-class doctor is speaking out because this violation of the rights of Ugandans is coming for all of us. And so I want to celebrate, first of all, her courage to just step in her space and her element and speak out. I think in addition to why I celebrate Joanne for speaking out is because for a long time, perhaps the last few years, the last more than 5 years, as long as NUP has been active, National Unity Platform has been active, it has been the position of the ghetto woman to speak out, or the politician who came in through the NUP card to speak out. But what Joanne's speaking out does is to highlight that it's no longer an issue of just NUP, the position, the number one opposition political party. It's no longer the work of the ghetto women to speak out. It's now become an issue of all women in Uganda, all classes, and all political parties, including the NRM. You say that her family, for a long time, are supporters of NRM. And so is Miriam Matembe. Miriam Matembe, I think for me, I get to know her because of the women's movement, but I also get to know her because of her work within the NRM and her work in the Constituent Assembly that came together to work on the 1995 Constitution. And even though we are different women, one of the things I really upheld about her was this work around the Constitution of Uganda, right? So when she is attacked by the son to the man whom she believed in, right? When Miriam Matembe used to talk about the regime of dictator Yoweri Museveni, she always talked about believing in the 1986 revolution and the revolutionaries, and believing that Museveni had come to begin a new work in Uganda of redeeming Uganda, right? And putting it back on a proper channel, right track. So if Miriam Matembe can get abducted, if she can get disappeared, if her home can be invaded, if her husband can say, "Where is Miriam?" If her relative Kazora can say, "Where is Miriam?" It's an important question because it's no longer a question for just the opposition. It's no longer a question of those who are new to the struggle. It's also a question very much of NRM diehards who believed in the Yoweri Museveni dream, who believed in the promise of a Uganda that was going to be different, who believed in NRM delivering more than just a change of guard. They believed in the fundamental change, right? But Miriam is also special because she was appointed Minister of Ethics and Integrity, right? Ethics and integrity, godly woman, very prayerful in terms of organizing the women's movement in Uganda. They really set it up on a moral course, right? And so the moral women of Uganda have worked alongside Miriam Matembe to do things around morality and ethics and integrity. And when I was arrested, because I had undressed in protest, many women in the women's organization were like, she's a bad woman. She's a disreputable woman. She's a loud woman. She's a, mentally sick woman as well. They said all these things. And in my moment of arrest, the women's movement was divided between the moral women and the immoral women. But today, even the moral women are being taken away, are threatened. We are asking, where is Miriam Tembe, who was a vanguard of moral feminism, moral woman leadership in Uganda, right? For Muhoozi Kainerugaba to say Matembe's time is over, let her open her stupid mouth anywhere again. I'm quoting that quote, the tweet that you have shared. For Muhoozi Kainerugaba to say that is for him to spit into the mouths of moral feminism to which Janet Museveni belongs. When Muhoozi calls Matembe a stupid-mouthed woman, he is spitting in the mouths of all members of Uganda women's movement who are set up on a very Christian moral, Islamic moral, religious moral course. So what does it mean for Miriam Matembe to be a fugitive in her country today, her homeland today? And if people think it's a question about Miriam Matembe because she became very critical of the failures of governance, I think it's that ethical impetus, the integrity she has, that even though she was a diehard NRM member, she totally believed and still believes in ethics, in constitutionalism, in integrity, in women's leadership, in good upbringing, in citizenship and patriotism that serves and works for all Ugandans. So what does it mean that Miriam Matembe is a fugitive today at the hands of Muhoozi Kainerugaba? And maybe to answer your question, I think for me then, as a person who was once abducted, we should not take lightly the fact that her husband, her family members, the civil society organization, especially women organizations, but also human rights organizations, lawyers, and the legal fraternity, all of them are saying, where is she? The fact that Muhoozi Kainerugaba sent military men first to Sarah Birete's home and then to Eunice Musime's home. Eunice Musime is the director of Akina Mama wa Africa, an organization, civil society organization that's been in operation for a long time, a very long time. When I was organizing in Uganda, sometimes I used their spaces. For a long time, it's not a new organization. And Eunice Musime and Sarah Birete is also into politics, but Eunice Musime represents civil society elite, briefcase carrying, high heel wearing, lipstick wearing, English speaking, polished Ugandans. Okay?
Right.
They are important, the organizing of women, because women in Uganda are civilized and respectable. And even when we flourish and make advances, we are polished. So the fact that the home of a polished woman was broken into and she was abducted and taken away together with Sarah Birete because they thought they were hiding Miriam Matembe is a question about what the country, what the army, what the CDF, what PLU and NRM and Dictator Museveni, what they think about women in Uganda. Do we matter? Do our lives matter? Does our security matter? Does the privacy of our homes matter? What message is Muhoozi sending? When a vanguard of women's organizing, upright women, forget about the Stella Nyanzis, as we are cantankerous, okay? Although we are Ugandan women and our lives matter too, and we should be handled through rule of law, The fact that Miriam Matembe can be taken away and disappeared, detained without trial, detained in an ungazetted facility. If that be the case, as he claims that he now has her, there are questions around the position of women. Did Museveni empower women through all sorts of quotas and all sorts of positive, what is it called? Affirmative action. Did he do that so that his son could come and abduct us and we are silent? Was that the reason that women were empowered in Uganda? Was it so that we can't speak out and question? One of the things that Miriam Matembe has done for women in Uganda, particularly younger women coming after her, is her voice has given us voice. That she can question means I can question too.
Right.
That she stand on her legs and speak truth to power means that even women in Uganda should be able to stand on her legs and speak truth to power. And Miriam Matembe generally worked across all sectors of women organizing, generally, right? And for Muhoozi to then penalize her, threaten, intimidate her, try to coerce her into silence, means he's doing the same to all Ugandan women who have risen up in this moment that Museveni is praised for having brought women out of the kitchen and brought us to the front lines of politics and, public office and public service and leadership and parliament and even constituent assembly where Miria was. I think the last point I want to talk about Henry is the fact that she is a fugitive. She is a fugitive until the Uganda police force declare they know where she is, until the courts tell us where she is, until we know where she's detained. As far as I'm concerned, she's a fugitive. A fugitive meaning a Ugandan whose life is at risk in the country and she's on the run. Because I haven't seen anywhere that she has been abducted, captured, kidnapped. She's been caught by anyone. I haven't seen that, right? And so the question about our lives not mattering is an important question that Miriam Matembe raises. We thought it was about Eddie Mutwe and all the other men who'd been abducted, the Kakwenza Lukira Bashaijas, the Sam Mugumias, the Yasin Machetes, all those men. We thought it was the regime was coming hard against men, the military was coming hard against men, and some ghetto women in NUP. But now, the middle class women are also being attacked. The professional women.
Should we be wondering where Charlotte is, because we haven't had any communications from her, or we haven't, at least through her husband, because during the abduction of the Lord Mayor Lukwago, Charlotte came out and persuaded her husband to set him free. Why is it that Charlotte hasn't come out on Matembe? Or has she come out and we just haven't heard?
But why I think for me to play into the narrative of Charlotte has allowed me, has advised me, has told me to let Lukwago go. For me to even qualify that as a logic for release is to qualify the fact that Muhoozi has any legitimacy to arrest and detain. He doesn't have it, not as a military man. He's not police. He's not police. He's not a detention facility. He's not a court. He didn't receive a court order to take her away. So playing into Charlotte, his wife, that's their private affairs. I don't want to be involved with Charlotte. I refuse to go into that narrative and that rhetoric, right? The fact that he says Charlotte said she doesn't have any diapers. I don't know what she said. Charlotte says she doesn't have enough diapers for or nappies or underwear for Lukwago. It was already very dehumanizing. The indignity of an adult man. His safety depending on his potty or toilet hygiene. Being supervised by the wife. Who is the wife of Muhoozi? Who is Charlotte to us? As a public officer, what is her position in the public service? Is she a police constable? What is she? And so because of that, I refuse to even engage with... We don't want to know what happens in his bedroom with his wife. That is not our business. His marriage is not a public office. The wife's position is not a public office engaged in release of detained persons. The fact that she has to take care of their hygiene and their underwear and their release is dependent on whether or not Charlotte can manage their toilet hygiene processes is none of my business. And I refuse to play with, okutagataga ebyembizi tulina ekibizi tuli awo tuli nakyo mu bitaka bwe kireeta ebitaka nga tulya. I refuse to
the thing is that we can try to dismiss MK right now, but Even the shutdown of the media houses were apparently ordered by him. The shut, as you
I am
can
not
see in that clip.
dismissing Charlotte. I am saying I will not engage with that. He has
Okay.
put it there for us to derail us. I refuse to go down that rabbit hole because Charlotte's office is not an office that I know. She hasn't been appointed by any public, service commission to any office related to detained or disappeared or fugitive Ugandans. No, 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 no. But in terms of what sort of, and this is before I go to the monitor question, in terms of what sort of of Ugandan humans there are, I want to go back to the question around disunity in
Right.
the different opposition resistance factions. A question that Dr. Kizza Besigye, those of us who are trained by her, he told us. He said that at the end of the day, Uganda has got so many factions, so many political parties, so many religions, so many ethnic groups, so many classes, so many, we are divided in very many different ways. We are so fragmented as a society, and Ugandans have been subdued by the Museveni dictatorship because of these fragmentations. Now, part of Dr. Besigye's lesson is at the end of the day, we have to get away from these different fragments and reorder ourselves between the oppressed and the oppressors, two factions with
Right.
one line drawn in between. Now, the women's movement in Uganda is at that moment where Miriam Matembe, who may belong to NRM, is siding with the oppressed as a fugitive, and Charlotte is siding with the oppressors. There are two groups in Uganda. It doesn't matter what your political party is today. There are two groups, and we are very quickly aligning ourselves ideologically, politically, as either the oppressors or the oppressed. And so Charlotte might belong to PLU or NRM, or she may be partyless, but we know that she's being used, her position as a woman belonging to Muhoozi's lineage or his bed or his family, she's being sidelined against the oppressed people. And for me, in terms of what sorts of women groups are there in Uganda, it did not matter that Sarah Birete comes from Western Uganda. Eunice Musime comes from Western Uganda, just like Muhoozi Kainerugaba comes from Western Uganda. It doesn't matter that they all speak Runyachitara, Miriam Matembe, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, Sarah Birete, Eunice Musime, even Tubbs.
Even Kajora, even Dubs, even
Tubbs,
Dubs, even
so
Kajora who recently shared an appeal.
what has this, the line that has been cut through the Runyachitara speakers from Western Uganda through these weeks' abductions is whether you're with the oppressed or the oppressors. So Dr. Kizza's theory around the fragmentation is coming to pass, that eventually we shall know who our oppressors are and who our comrades as the oppressed are. And so for me, even though I don't align necessarily with Christian moral feminism as a woman in Uganda, I align myself with the oppressed. And so all the oppressed women, even when they belong to a different religion, I come from Masaka, I'm from the Baganda ethnic group, I don't know what my religion is, I can stand with these women as oppressed women. Even when we are very different and fragmented, we come from different political parties, different class, different religions, different, all of these things are different, but we're now eating with the oppressed people who have nothing to eat. And so Charlotte, therefore, for me, becomes one of those working with our oppressors. And unless she speaks for herself about the release of Miriam Matembe and all the other political prisoners in Uganda, she does not belong to us. She belongs with the Muhoozis who are abducting us, invading our homes, cutting off our hair, making our sick husbands more sick, etc., etc. And then Susan Sibira of the Monitor, Daily Monitor newspaper begins to align herself with the Matembes and the Nyanzis of this world who are oppressed.
I want us to unpack Kazora's appeal to the people of Kashari. Also in regard to to the rest of Miriam Matembe. I don't know if you had an opportunity to listen to her to his message, but his message was primarily appealing mostly to, of course, people in government, but also family members around Kashari, neighbors, different families.
Everyone, my name is Jeke Kazora. I come from the Kanjinja family. Today is the 26th of June, 2026. And the Kanjinja family from Rutoma Kashari and where Auntie Miria Kubununga Matembe is part of. And as a family, I've been tasked to send out a video and reach out to some friends and family, especially from Kashari, to see if they can help us find Auntie Miria. As you know, a few days ago, the drones came to Auntie Miria's home in Ruzira, and she was not there, and they left. But in actual sense, actually, she was jogging. She was taking her morning walks. So I think probably the drone people, we think, I don't know, they could have probably found her on the road walking, and they took insistence no one to take videos or pictures. So, you know, they could have taken her, but we honestly, we don't know. Yeah. So I'm trying to reach out, and Aunt Miria, if you're still there, probably you're in hiding. But the Kubulunga we know, I don't think she would hide. She's someone who will come out and say, yeah, my God will protect me, come take me. So we are a bit confused and worried. We don't know. But just reaching out to the great family of Kashari, people that, you know, we're relatives to, we've grown up with, our people, you know, Aunt Karen Kayunga, you're part of us. Even you, Edwin Karujire, you're from Kashari, our MPs, Nathan Itungo, JB Patrick, Kayanjire family, Nyindo family, the Majeres, the Kazoras, the Chad, Ndura family, anyone, even Major Mzee Saviti, you know, we're all from Kashari. That is our home. That is our daughter. That is our auntie. So we just want to know. We don't know because Aunt Miria is not the sort of person that will go into hiding and all that. So we're a bit worried. And for the people that took her, if well, she's almost 80, I don't think she can measure up with the torture and all that. If she hasn't made it through, please don't, you know, dump her somewhere. Please give us the body. We give her a proper send-off. And if it goes beyond 30 days, then I don't know what's going to happen, because we're really worried. Aunt Miria, if you're there and by chance you get this video, please make sure you reach out to Uncle Nick. Your husband is worried, you know, he's in his 80s, pressure yam tera. So it's we don't know. And hopefully you're fine, and we pray that, you know, you're safe wherever you are, and hopefully we'll see you soon. So that's a situation that is going on. So we informed you, friends and relatives. We don't know where Auntie Miria Kubulunga Matembe is, but you know, the people who are maybe taking her and the torture, please, that's a senior citizen. She's really done so much for this nation. In fact, Africa, fighting for women empowerment all our years. And, you know, it's funny, just, you know, recently she was in State House receiving an award from President Museveni. And she even said, I don't like you, I don't like them Museveni now, I like Museveni. And, you know, President Museveni was okay, smiling. And actually, even President Museveni gave how much money to the son, you know. So, and then now this, so it's a bit worrying and confusing. But hopefully you're all informed, we're worried, and we pray that Aunt Miria Matembe, she's fine, for good on my country.
Your thoughts based on that submission, the appeal to the Sabiris, the appeal to the folks who are close to power, what transpired in State House, as you have heard, the appeal to all the neighbors, specifically folks in Kashari. I think this is important to unpack, because there's now a very thin line between the oppressors and the oppressed, because even the people who thought they were close to power, people who would never be affected by any sort of oppression, they seem to be in the same boat that is sinking. And like, when the boat is sinking, everyone regardless of whether you're in first class or in economy, you're going to sink along. So the point is to ensure that the boat doesn't sink at all, because when it does, all of us sink along, and we die along. Your thoughts about Kazora's message? By the way, if you compare this messaging to what he said when Lukwago's pictures were displayed on MK's Twitter, there's a very big disconnect between what he's saying right now and what he said during Lukwago's abduction, which he thought or intimated that they were fake. He didn't want to believe that they were legit coming from the basement. So tell us your thoughts, Dr. Stella.
Right. I mean, in Luganda, there's a saying, chimala kutu kako, right? And I think in English, there's another saying about some people only learning through experience. So now that Kazora has experienced what a lot of people have been complaining about, the abductions and disappearance of their family members, now he is concerned. And I think for me that the last few months have witnessed many Ugandans reminding us that German saying about first they came for the socialists and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came until they came for the Jews, and then there was no one left to speak for me, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is why I was saying that the fact that Sarah Birete and Eunice Musime have been released does not mean that all the others who have been abducted before have been released. That a small concession here and a small concession there from the military regime does not take away the bigger resistance battle. And so to go back to Kazora, I was among the people who was shocked, because I'm very much interested in digital organizing and the advancements in technology and information technology in STEM, science, technology, economics, and math. Or engineering and math. I'm very much interested in how that frontier is progressing for Uganda. There wasn't enough investment or budget allocation for STEM science and AI and IT in our current budget, yet we have seen a rising turn towards digital propaganda and warfare, right? E-warfare, AI-related warfare. And why this is important is because when Kazora was throwing shade on Elias Lukwago's photographs in the tiled space, people have called it a bathroom. For me, it kind of reminds me of a butcher's place. Ugandans, I don't know. But that space with tiles, that Kazora said, this is AI, this is fake. Yeah, that those pictures for him looked like they were AI, really nasty pictures. And instead of empathizing with the former Lord Mayor who was on the floor, with a blindfold over his face, what Kazora could afford to come up with was, oh, that is AI. And I think he said the same for Eddie Mutwe's pictures that were taken in the same tiled facility. And as we turn towards AI and propaganda and disinformation, misinformation, and how it was also used in the Kizza Besigye evidence. I cannot talk about it, but the recorded conversations between Kizza Besigye and a group of other people talking about arms and helicopters and the so-called treason plan. As Uganda turns more and more, we are being forced to turn towards AI and AI-related propaganda. I think part of my problem is how, as the resistance, the opposition, we are not prepared to even engage with these sorts of discussions and questions. Yeah.
Right.
So in terms of how do we manage a growing illegal military outfit that's invading our spaces now that they've come into the information sector, Kazora and his the anecdote of Kazora and the story of Kazora, the narrative of Kazora around his aunt, Miriam Matembe, for me really flags these questions of AI readiness for us in the resistance in Uganda to deal with the propaganda of the day, the disinformation of the day, because that is one front where Muhoozi is now leading by Twitter, military coup by Twitter post, is it X posts, threatening whoever he wants to threaten by a mere statement on his X platform. That is the new tactic. Well, part of his warfare strategy is the tweet that will come out. And if any life is implicated in his tweets, I will hang Bobby Wine, I will hang Kiza Besigye, I will come for Lukwago, I will come for Miriam Matembe, I'm coming for Sarah Bireta, I'm coming for Semujunganda, I'm coming. People's lives are held at ransom.
Ugandans and also international personalities, just like Council
Kenya
Kamia,
and
Senior Council Kamia.
Somalia. Yeah, like he's also opened up very interesting Twitter wars or X wars with Kenya, with Somaliland, with Rwanda, with even the US.
Even the
Where
US, the
the
ambassador
US
of the US.
ambassador had to come and and his father then had to rise to the occasion and do the foreign relations and diplomacy. And so the Kazora questions for me are important questions around, because always I'm thinking about the resistance and how a remnant of freedom fighters in Uganda continue the struggle against militarization. Part of my problem is I don't see readiness. I don't see ourselves preparing. One of the work that was done very well under NUP's organizing, and I think Bobby Wine's Foot Soldiers and his social media armies, what they did was to prepare a certain form of engagement, and we got numbers online. But I don't think we have advanced well enough to take on the AI generated Muhoozi X profile or X handle generated propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, threats, but also violent action. He tells us he's going to undertake violent action on his X space. He gives us the evidence that he's undertaken this, and he goes on to the next without anyone doing anything, even when we have a very strict and healthy computer misuse legal regime. We have laws governing our digital democracy and participation. So just to go back now to the familiar relationship between Kazora crying out for his aunt. Welcome, Kazora, to where many Ugandans have been for the last 40 years, The Acholi were crying long before many of us began crying. And then people in Kasese joined them, people in Mukura joined them, and then freedom fighters in all political parties joined them, the Muslim sheikhs joined them.
Yes.
And, People Power, FDC, all these people joined them, organizers joined them. Finally, Kazora, welcome to the club. Many Ugandans have been taken away, abducted, violently threatened, our homes broken into, our loved ones disappeared. We've been here a long, long time. And if we are lucky, they come back to us when they are wounded or maimed and they get thrown into police stations like happened to Eddie Mutwe or Elias Lukwago or Sarah Birete and Eunice Musime. If we are not lucky, they never come back to us. If we are lucky, they end up in police stations and they come back to us with their dreadlocks intact. If we are unlucky, they come back to us limping and broken like Eddie Mutwe was, and they're broken, and then they get thrown up into jails where they are slapped with trumped-up charges, which they have to battle with, some for years, And so, Kazora, welcome to the Ugandan Oppressed Members Club. We have been here a very long time battling with these issues. At a moment, you thought it was happening to those opposition members. Now, Miriam Matembe is your relative. Welcome to where we have been for a long time. Please join the struggle to liberate Ugandans from this criminal outfit wearing our military uniform. I have no problems with the CDF who upholds the Constitution.
Right.
I have no problem with Muhoozi if he was rightfully appointed as CDF and he upheld the Constitution, upheld the law that governs arrests and detention, pre-trial detention, if he honored that. I have a big problem with a criminal impositor posturing around as the CDF. We can't have both criminality and CDF in the same sentence. And I know that Comrade Egesa often says that the state organs are criminal outfits. He said this a few times. But I think for those of us who are in Uganda and we want to really see uphold rule of law, it's not acceptable that we have a CDF who is the first to break the rule of law, the first to violate people's homes. So Kazora and the people in Kashari, welcome to the real struggle, and I hope that they can join the struggle. And maybe as they join the struggle, I just want to say to comrades that when a person who hasn't been a freedom fighter has misfortune and they have to join us, it should be our posture to welcome them, show them how bad the situation is, recruit them very quickly into the fight for freedom, because we don't have enough numbers. So we need Kazora and many other people from Kashari to join the struggle for liberation. And I think the most painful for me is Uncle Nick, because the news reportage that was shared of him with, I think it was Sudirbia Ruhanga of the now closed NTV, Uncle Nick limping and leading the journalist to the bedroom and saying they came to our bedroom, they invaded our bedroom, they looked around the bedroom and there was nothing to take, so they didn't take. But the fact that elderly fathers, grandfathers, elderly husbands now have to sit and ask themselves, where is my wife? And tell these painful stories, having served Ugandans for 60 years before they retired, is not acceptable. That the home of elderly people, Uncle Nick and Auntie Miriam Matembe, is invaded and we have no answers and we have no comeback is not acceptable. So it doesn't matter that Sarah Birete and Eunice Musime were given back to us. Miriam Matembe is not with us, and that is not acceptable.
Let us delve into the conversation regarding the resisting lawlessness, a campaign that has been facilitated by Uganda Law Society. Of course, in solidarity with everyone, other political prisoners, but also in trying to keep the establishment accountable. I want us to listen to what Dr. Ulme was saying about this campaign.
And think that you are going to practice law under these circumstances. What kind of law are you practicing? We know very well that a judge can ask for money, and I give him money, and I make my own judgment, and he reads it. Is that the law that you studied? Is that the justice that you want? But these are the things which are persisting. You will not be proud to have a profession in which those things are happening. How can you be proud of a profession whereby a judge is going to get a telephone call from powers from above? Who is going to speak to you for you? Yes, you may benefit from it, dear lawyer, because the kind of a situation in which we are, you can even benefit out of it. After all, your arguments no longer matter. But you want to study the law so that you can make arguments and make your client win. But you win simply because you have paid the judge. What kind of system can that be? If at all we sacrifice these values whereby people can sell justice, then what are we left with? Those who are benefiting out of it, yes, will cry out. They will not be happy with you. But those who are radical, who think that things must return to normal, you have very many supporters in Uganda, and we shall be with you in everything that you do to make Uganda a better country. For all of us.
Do lawyers use their arguments to win cases, or do they use their finances? And I think I want us to actually take this opportunity to commend the Uganda Law Society and its president for managing this protest, even though it hasn't been really, I mean, they have been lucky that they haven't been picked up yet. Hopefully they don't get picked up by the MK movement or PLU, just like the media houses have been shut down. But how do we get from Dr. Lulume's message?
So just to say also that very similar to Council Erias Lukwago, Council Kale Baraka, Council Aaron Kiza, Council, Tutumaseme Kakuru, Miriam Matembe is also a lawyer. Right? So another lawyer was attacked, and she's a retired lawyer. Sarah Birete studied the law as well, right? So there's been an attack on several lawyers. And so your question, I think for me, around the strike that Uganda Law Society led, and first of all, I want to add my voice to yours in terms of commending them and thanking them for a job well done so far. I think for me that in terms of organizing the resistance, part of the question has been around the professional associations, the professional bodies, because in previous revolutions we see the important role played by the law society, the medical society, and all other professional bodies and trade unions, in terms of organizing with the masses. So part of what happened in Uganda was the disabling of these professional bodies. And I think with the leadership of the radical new bar coming into governance of Uganda Law Society, there has been a renewal of leadership on that front to have a perpendicular, they call themselves most perpendicular president, most perpendicular vice president. To have perpendicular leadership means that it's possible to get quorum of educated Ugandans practicing a well-respected profession, the law. Some of the elite in the country, most of our members of parliament, many in the judiciary and the executive are lawyers. But to have lawyers from the elite class in Uganda deciding not to use their privilege to serve the oppressor, but to serve underprivileged, oppressed Ugandans is important. So what ULS has provided is leadership. Their strike in the moment of the abduction and illegal detention, pretrial detention and torture of Erias Lukwago was important as a gesture, as a symbolic gesture towards renewing the resistance as a professional body. Now, part of what I celebrate is the fact that street protests have been paralyzed for a long time in Uganda, particularly beginning with the 2020 murders, the shooting of civilians in the streets in the 2020 election, prior to this 2026 one, that many Ugandans began to fear protesting in the streets. Non-violent protest was clubbed a lot because of the presence of military armed people, some in uniform, some not wearing uniform, shooting at civilians in the streets. And I think that the 2020 massacres introduced a lot of fear into Ugandans, and there hasn't been enough creativity around protest culture, because all we seemed to know as street protests. The lawyers' protest then introduced innovation, because I understand that there had been deployment at the Uganda Law Society building, the headquarters, and in some of the key courts where the police and military had anticipated lawyers in gowns coming with placards. That is Chitwaba Manyiz. That's what they are used to doing. But the innovation that was introduced in the Radical New Bar's order, I think it was order number 10 or something, like the marching orders had a number of options, which were written to introduce safety during non-violent protest. Don't take yourselves to get arrested and clobbered violently by anti-riot police officers. And so members had options to protest by not going to court, don't show up at court, but go and do civil or civic education, popular education, community education, tell people around, to talk to people about torture, because they're also marking International World Day Against Torture. Yeah. So one of the things that lawyers did was to go in T-shirts that were labeled "Resisting Lawlessness" and celebrating 70 years of the Law Society, and talk to people, record yourself talking to people about what's happening in the country. The second option was to go to ancestors or elders and report what's happening. So some of them consulted senior lawyers such as Ladislas Rakafuzi, who experienced a shock. He used to be an amazing human rights lawyer representing many of us in different courts. And the Vice President, Anthony Asimwe, for example, went and visited Ladislas Rakafuzi, and they had a discussion about the current state of lawlessness. Several other lawyers, including those in the governing council, went to the ancestors. So they went to their ancestors, the graves, and they reported the injustices that are happening to the ancestors. And they took these pictures of their graves where they were actually not at work, but they'd gone to undertake this part of civil protest. So there were a number of ways in which others went to engage with the public media or social media and have these talks. So they were actually protesting. They didn't go to court. Court was paralyzed, work was paralyzed, but they also didn't engage in dangerous or endangered subversive activities such as street protests. Okay. And I think for me that in terms of organizing, the lawyers' protest the first day was successful. In some of their debriefing meetings, which were held on social media, there was a call to extend the protest beyond one day. Many lawyers say we want many more days. We have to paralyze the judicial system that has been weaponized by the military regime. And secondly, there was an important call to include community members so that they know what's happening, so that they participate as well, but also because many of the clients who came to court without knowing there was a lawyers' strike, they were disappointed. And one doesn't want to alienate the clients of lawyers. So it's important if they understand, if we, the clients, the court users who are not lawyers, know what's happening, we can stand in solidarity with them as well and not show up to court even when we have important court matters. And the very last was a suggestion to find ways to include the judiciary, bring the judges and the magistrates to a conversation about why they're allowing themselves to be weaponized. But I'm not the best person to speak for the lawyers' strike because I'm not a lawyer. It would have been wonderful if one of the lawyers who'd said they were coming would have come to the space to talk about what happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to get in touch with the president of the Uganda Law Society to see whether he can join us and give us more details on what is happening, if the strike is going to be ongoing and for how long it's going to proceed. I think the innovative ways that they have managed this strike is very good, and I think it sends a strong message both to the population because it encourages the people to participate in these kinds of engagements without necessarily putting themselves in danger, because I think that is something that we have been lacking, or people have been lacking, organizers have been lacking, to plan this kind of protest that tests the judicial system, puts it on trial itself, even though it is being used by the military or being militarized. I think it's very good. If they can extend it further for a couple of days, of course, there are people who are going to feel unfairly treated because they don't have folks to stand with them in courts of laws. But I think there has to be a price that is paid in order for the entire country to get its freedom uh, from the military occupation right now that is happening within our political landscape. And I think that's very important. I just got some news that likely Winnie Kiza might also be abducted. I'm not sure if he has already been abducted, but that's an update from the human rights platform that has been giving us an update regarding what Mohoz potentially is thinking about doing. He's interested in Winkiza. We know Winkiza was an exceptional leader of opposition, one that retired with a lot of integrity. Of course, when you talk about Miriam Matembe, you can see her fruits in people like you, Stella Nyanzi, but also in people like people who have been actively participating in Uganda's politics, like Winnie Kiza. Hopefully, it doesn't get abducted like everyone else has been abducted. We hope that she's fine, but we shall be letting you know if that happens. She's also a very close associate to Sarah Birete, so it wouldn't be surprising if she gets arrested as well. We just need to know, why are they arresting them? What are they? What's wrong? Why does MK seem to be scared of women?
I mean, it's an important question. I think for me that again, so when Miriam Matembe was abducted and taken from her home, the women who came together for the first time, women across political party divides came together across. So political party members were there. So Winnie Kiza was there, Doreen Nyanjura was there, Flavia Nabagabe was there, Lina Zedruga was there. And there were also civil society organization members. That's where Sarah Birete and Eunice Musime and so many other women that I know were there holding hands and encouraging each other and singing songs and making speeches against her abduction. So Winnie Kiza has been very present in terms of women's organizing. And why I was asking, did Museveni really empower women so that we could be beaten up, beaten down, subdued by his military dictatorship son during the takeover, the coup, the transition to Muhoozi's PLU regime? I asked because Winnie Kiza is among the leading women in Uganda. Women leaders are all being subdued, you know? And again, if it is fine for cantankerous women such as myself to be criminalized, abducted, and locked up, beaten up, tortured, what about these upright, moral women? What did Winnie Kiza do apart from stand in solidarity with a comrade who disappeared? But much more than that, Winnie Kiza was in parliament, was appointed she used to be FDC, my political party member, and she didn't just represent women in Kasese. She was also appointed to leader of opposition, and she played an amazing job during the Tojikwatako struggles. She was the leader of opposition during that time, and we saw her uniting all the Tojikwatako freedom fighters, regardless of party. And so she's been a stalwart of organizing resistance from within parliament. When she did not return to parliament, she continued playing her role in ANT, Alliance for National Transformation, her political party. She continued giving her leadership as a woman leader. So the women leaders are now being threatened as well. What does it mean for the CDF to threaten an outgoing woman leader of opposition? What are they doing to women in leadership? Are they silencing us? Is the plan to silence, embarrass, ridicule, punish, and take us back to just being beautiful and silent, non-critical? Or to be praise singers? You know, in Buganda, women dance. The men play the drums and women come dancing to entertain those in power. Must we go back to just being women who entertain men in power, but we never question or criticize or highlight what's wrong? In Buganda, we also have strong women who criticize the Sengas, the Mamas, the Nalongos, the Judges. It's our duty to do this, in my culture at least. And I think that the culture of resistance among the women of Uganda is an important contribution to the resistance struggle we have in Uganda. But in terms of leader of opposition, if we don't deal with this question of a criminal CDF taking over the roles of police summons and abducting people and detaining them without without trial, without charge, if we don't manage that as Ugandans, civilian Ugandans, it means that other leaders of opposition are going to face threats. We have seen a similar threat to Joel Ssenyonyi. Why? Because he also just spoke out. Joel Ssenyonyi is among another lawyer. So Joel is a journalist, but a lawyer as well, and leader of opposition, who spoke out and called out Muhoozi and used his office as leader of opposition to challenge what was happening around the abduction of Erias Lukwago and the public display of very undignified photographs. Now, beyond just threatening Joel Ssenyonyi, we also see how he wrote saying he's going to remove him from power, and he wrote this on his ex Twitter handle. And then we saw corresponding PLU-related activities in Parliament, the introduction of this private members bill by Dennis Namara. And so the threats are not just threats issued online. It's more than just AI. It's AI propaganda that's pushing a particular form of lawlessness that either ends up as abductions and torture to subdue critical voices of dissent, or they're now invading Parliament. And it won't be the first time through the leader of opposition that they're trying to invade Parliament. We've already seen Muhoozi declaring by Twitter that he appoints the deputy speaker of Parliament and the speaker of Parliament as his envoys in Parliament. And then this came after or before, around the same time that outgoing Secretary General David Kabanda had said, we don't want Anita Among in Parliament. Instead, we want Oboth and Thomas Tayebwa. So the threats to leaders of opposition are pretty consistent. It's becoming, it's not just that Winnie Kiza is wanted. He's doing this to this leader of opposition, an outgoing leader of opposition, but there's another one we know is being targeted. Very, very similar ways in which Oboth and Tayebwa rose to power, maybe the very same ways through which Joel Ssenyonyi is targeted. So I think for me, in terms of this militarization that comes via Twitter as threats and then has action, it has to be questioned. It has to be managed. Thankfully, Isaac Samakade is here. If he could mute his mic or address the question. So yeah, in terms of the threats to human to Winnie Kiza, I think the important question for me then would be, who is this source? You said Human Rights First are the ones who have advertised that Muhoozi Kainerugaba intends to abduct Winnie Kiza as well. We know that when that Twitter handle has threatened to do something more and more, a pattern has been established that if it's threats of violence and abductions, they tend to happen. So if I were Winnie Kiza, I would take this seriously. But it's very good that the men who handle rule of law issues, and I don't know how well versed Leonard Egesa is with questions around AI, disinformation, misinformation. I think for me that in terms of organizing resistance, we have to find ways of working with technology and AI, etc., because while we may be organizing voices on the ground, ULS has responded, I don't see enough organizing around the internet-based disinformation, the internet-based violence, but also the internet-based lawlessness. Just hijack and take over, capture and besiege of processes. via his Twitter handle, members of parliament are now running around to make a private members bill because Muhoozi wants Joel Ssenyonyi out of office. Is it coincidence, or is it actually a strategy that's going to be Twitter driven, AI based, and it's not just going to the courts via evidence for people like Kizza Besigye, and evidence which was questioned by Kazora but is now becoming important for him because his aunt has been touched, but also a new way to direct us. So yeah, I've sort of addressed your question around the Winnie Kizza threat.
Yeah.
As a woman, I am worried. As a woman in Uganda, I'm worried.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Stella, for that submission. We do have the president of the Uganda Law Society who has joined us as well to give us some information regarding how the strike or the protest for the lawlessness is unfolding and how long it's going to stay. But also, I'll give him an opportunity to speak about what is happening in Uganda today. Last week, the entire last week, of course, both of you men, welcome to the State of the Nation. So many things have been happening this week, from the declaring of Martha Karuya as a person non grata, or person non grata actually, and being denied to come to the country, to the abduction of women, Maria Matembe, Sarah Birete, a few other women have been abducted. Winnie Kizza is also on the verge of being abducted. What your thoughts are with what is going on right now, the militarization of civil institutions in the country, but also how we should operate in regards to what is going on in Uganda today? What should citizens, local citizens, everyday Joes, what can they do to ensure that they are not caught up in being fearful of how to manage their lives, but also speak truth to power? I'm not sure if I should start with the president or Comrade Egesa. You must be really tired because you have been engaging in other meetings. Let me start with the president and then I'll bring in Comrade Egesa later. Mr. President, what's going on? First with the protest, which I commend you for having led, albeit from afar. What's going on? How are things unfolding? And what should people expect starting tomorrow? I know you're in darkness. You can leave on your picture instead.
Sorry, I'm in darkness, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, perhaps. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. The picture is good.
Thank you. Apologies, Henry, for the lateness. It's difficult to stay on top of one's agenda lately. But here we are, and we are grateful. Good evening, my colleagues, Mr. Egesa and Dr. Stella Nyanzi. Can you hear me?
Good evening, Isaac. Yes, good evening. I can hear you.
I can't hear you.
We can hear you.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Where is my brother Medard? Twice in a row he's missing.
Medard just told me that he needs to manage the situation wisely. Based on the different events that are happening right now, he told me that let me first manage this situation wisely. Of course, he told me that Lukwago is in hospital. He was there. He has seen the way things are going with him. But I think he's meeting up with different folks to figure out how to manage, I think, Dr. Kebi's case that is coming up on the 30th. As you know that Dr. Kizabese doesn't have, both of his lead counsels have been either either arrested or denied entry in the country. So that also has to be managed. I thought you were part of those conversations, but that's the situation right now. But of course, whatever is happening in the country right now is also something that needs to be navigated carefully. You are muted, Mr. President. I'm not sure if you hear us. And I'm not sure if you are speaking. I guess I want to speak instead as the president gets ready.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, so what's the question?
You have been busy. You have been busy this week. You look exhausted. Well,
I
what's
am
going on?
really, yeah, I've been very busy.
Yeah,
But
what's
of course,
going on? We see that the country is in some kind of shock. Okay, there are so many people being arrested. There's a lot of events that are happening. Media houses have been shut down. But all this under the watch of MK, because every tweet that you see that is that affects some of the events that are happening in Uganda right now comes at the direction of the CDF. Why why is it that the military is everywhere in civil institutions in the country? What's the cause? Yeah, what's the cause of that military? Like,
I answered that question during the time when Anita Among was being thrown out of the race for speakership. If I don't know if I will be able to find the tweet now, but I stated clearly that what we are seeing is a military coup taking place.
right.
And I even followed it up with an article where I said why Museveni is doing the right thing the wrong way. The right thing then being a purported fight against corruption. So they had paraded the raids on Anita Among's homes as a fight against corruption. They called it Operation Maliza Ufisadi. And I have, I think, severally explained why. I mean, what happened, it seems like an aborted operation. It did not proceed. We have not seen Anita Among paraded anywhere or arraigned in the courts. There was a show and some kind of auto show where her top of the range vehicles were put on car carriers, driven around town, and that's just about it. The last we heard of Anita Among before the stories of her sickness was the fact that a report prepared by the IGG went to the president. And I have given my views on that. I don't think that is the right way for the IGG to go about their work. And I don't even see why IGG and Police CID would be handling the same case, even in a matter where the president has clearly given them a go-ahead. I thought that in this particular matter, where the president is the whistleblower in court, he should make up his mind and simply say, CID handle this, and not even demand a report before the judicial processes are exhausted. But the fact that the judicial processes are not the ones that are being followed, for me, it was already pointing to the fact that what we are having is a military coup. I pointed it out at that time. I think it is just time that is confirming what some of us have been suspecting, that it's a military coup. What remains unclear to most of us myself included, is whether this military coup has the full blessing of the president or not.
Right. So,
Yeah,
in essence,
so in essence, knowing his operations, as in
right.
his methods of work, there is still a 50-50 chance that he will not allow the coup to go to its conclusion. So we might see a twist along the way. You see, for him, he's the kind who will, first of all, watch and then strike when he has already, taken stock of the arsenal that the enemy in quotes has. So I mean, for me, it is a 50-50 whether he has blessed it, because there is a possibility that they sat down with the son and said, this is how you're going to take over. But if you ask me, I have strong reservations that President Museveni can allow the son to take over when he's still alive. So that's why I'm leaving it as 50-50. It is out of character for him, but the silence when these things are happening.
Yeah, so some people have indicated that the fact that there, as you said, it could be a coup, really, that is happening.
It's not
So
that it could be, it is already. You
it is.
remove the could. I want to disabuse you of your journalistic tendencies.
I'm trying to be polite
Yeah,
here.
that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to disabuse you of your journalistic tendencies, where you are like lawyers.
It could be.
You get somebody with in the act, and you start saying it is being alleged that you have stolen.
Because what we are seeing happening, Mr. Egesa, what we are seeing happening right now, the reason why you could be right is because we are seeing already some kind of transitions happening. So we know that the Minister
It's
of
not a
Education,
transition, it is a hostile takeover.
it is, but when you say that his dad might be in the know, we could also infer on some of the events that are happening right now. For instance, the appointment of Jesse Muyingo as the acting Minister of Education could be one way to keep the First Lady out of what is coming. Stay out of this chaos that is going to happen. I don't want
No. But you are forgetting that the president came out and said the First Lady has not been well. You remember on this very platform, I told you that it was his PR team was letting him down. Whether they took my advice or not, he came out, owned up, and said the First Lady has not been well. Yeah, so I think there he scored. He managed to break away from the that cloud of secrecy and silence that was creating a lot of speculation online. So I want to believe that Jesse Muyingo is in acting capacity as substantive minister for education because the First Lady is not yet in good health to carry on. That's what I want to believe. I don't want to believe that it is related to the so-called succession. And I also want to believe, I would have believed that the First Lady could have maybe interfered with the coup. But now, the latest we had, she is not on the list of those that can summon the general. The general also removed Jesus Christ from the list. So now there remained one person. So he said, there used to be 4 people. There used to be the uncle, the father, the mother, and Jesus Christ. Now, the uncle, the mother, and Jesus Christ have been removed from the list. He says he can only be summoned by the father. The events that have taken place in the last 24 hours, like the
The last
closure
week,
of,
actually, because Korea was.
no, let me first focus on the last for 24 hours.
Okay.
The closure, the military raid on Africa
Media
Broadcasting
houses.
Corporation,
Yeah.
that is in NTV, then the other businesses under NMG, like the Daily Monitor and the other brands that they are running. He said that he got clearance from Muzei being the president. Well, that is, has the president ever closed these businesses? Yes. So therefore, these very businesses we are talking about, Monitor has ever been closed by President Museveni, not once. So that is, I don't know if that is the best way they know how to negotiate. I am really feeling sorry for my friend Alan Kasuja, who
Media
I have
Center.
seen people bringing up tweets of him in defense of media freedoms. They have dug up these tweets from the time when he was based out of the country at the BBC, and he was calling out all those who are attacking the media. So those tweets have now resurrected, they are trending. I want to believe he should be in a catch-22. I haven't called him. Maybe I should reach out. And I think this is the dilemma of being in PLU. You being in PLU, some of the things that are happening can go against your own personality. They can go against your own beliefs and your own record. Yeah. So it's not only Alan Kasuja in that position. Look at I was giving an example of what is happening in Parliament. I think it's one of the things you pointed out. The purported or the proposed amendment of the Administration of Parliament Act, such that they can elect a leader of opposition, which might end up having the PLU producing the leader of opposition. Yeah.
Even though PLU is not a party.
There are some mechanics they can play with, because PLU has people in NUP, it has people in NRM, so they can get one of their people in NUP or DP or whatever it is, and that person will be elected leader of opposition. So you'll end up with the NRM as the ruling party and PLU as the the one leading opposition. So it will be our brother here who was telling us that Uganda is an advanced democracy. I don't know what he thought about Uganda will be in the next few months, because when we seem to be going the Rwanda way. In Rwanda, the president decides who opposes him and how they oppose him. So we might be in that same direction.
Similar to what is happening.
Having said that, there is something else that I'm seeing that is happening. I think the rise of PLU and General MK, for all intents and purposes, there is a message they are sending to us that to hell with democracy. I think their message should now be interpreted clearly. They seem to be telling us that we should be prepared for communism.
Are we ready for communism?
The question as to whether we are ready, me and you cannot answer, but time will answer. I think so. So we seem to be going the Pyongyang way, the Beijing way, or a
you
hybrid
mentioned
of
that he
sorts.
has advisors from Asia.
Yeah. as we seem to be going in a hybrid of Beijing and Pyongyang. So maybe for the people who might not understand, from a geopolitical perspective, given the altercations that he has been having with foreign states online on X, I want you to probably, all of you could be more active on X than myself. Have you ever seen a single time when he has attacked North Korea or China?
Not that I've seen myself.
Or Russia?
No.
Yeah, so from a geopolitical perspective, what I have read is that this is what my tea leaves are telling me, that the succession of President Museveni by his son did not receive a blessing from Washington. It might have received a lukewarm reception from London, not even 10 Downing Street, but from Buckingham Palace.
Interesting.
So with that situation obtaining, Plan B has to swing into action. With Plan B being
any thoughts on
towards
what
the east.
the French are thinking?
It doesn't matter. The British and the Americans hold sway in Uganda. The French have very little interest in Uganda. They have some interest in Kenya, but not very much in Uganda.
Okay.
There's little French presence in Uganda, very little. In Kenya, it's a different ball game. I don't know if you remember the last time a sitting French president visited Uganda. Even Emmanuel Macron has been in Kenya just recently.
Yes.
There was no talk of visiting Uganda and the like. The French interfering with Ugandan politics is not something that is well documented anyway. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you concentrate on the battle between two giants from the West. That's the United States and
the UK, England.
EU/UK.
Yeah.
Then we move to East. So it's the battle between the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc. So the East moved in very early. They established relations with General MK. They have helped him in shaping the army in his image. They have, and he has, you can also go back, if you follow his timeline, if you do an analysis on his timeline, Twitter timeline,
yeah,
you will see that he has visited those countries, especially China and Russia, in the last 3 years, more than once probably. That should tell you the bit of the story that I am alluding to.
right.
So now, so that plan B has to swing into action and it has to be executed fast. And then how it plays out, how it is being executed, I think it's not difficult to see given now the leaning. So what I was trying to bring into the conversation is on which side of the axis is this succession playing from? And then why are we seeing a conspicuous silence from the envoys from the Western world?
Right.
The champions of democracy. We have seen statements from the bar, the bar associations from the European Union and the like. But the governments are quiet because the governments seem to be in the know of this geopolitics that is now playing out in Uganda.
Right.
So I think we need to see it in that context. And
Yeah,
then
it's
we
very
probably,
interesting that you're talking about that actually, because I haven't had anything from the embassy of the
not
United
from the
States.
EU, not from the
Yeah.
United States, because the
Yeah.
United States is on record. People like the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, they have had their spats with General MK. They have registered their protests and displeasure at some of his comments on the X platform.
Yeah,
But
the
they
United
haven't
States,
really taken any serious action.
not
And,
really, especially because they have a major event happening at the embassy coming up soon to celebrate Roosevelt, the Roosevelt event that is happening in Uganda.
That
think
cannot
it's
be a reason for the United States not to act, my brother. The United
Yeah,
States
it
is not
shouldn't. It
is not a
shouldn't.
small state.
Yeah.
That cannot be a reason to stop them from acting. There is a lot high stakes negotiations and restraint happening. I think President Museveni has been an asset of the United States.
Right.
So I think they have reached a point of departure on his succession, and they disagree. Now, as they disagree with him, he seems to have activated a plan B with the
Plan
son,
B. Yeah.
and they are now watching, and they are stuck because he has been their asset. So, my
So
brother.
what happens if an active coup actually happens? Unlike
You maybe your question should be, what happens if it is fast tracked and there is a
implemented,
change
yeah,
of guard?
fast track implemented,
There's
and then there's a
change
change.
of guard.
Exactly. That's what I want to ask. I'm trying to
So what
be,
happens then? We shall be able to see the hypocrisy of the West.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because if it's
we will
fast
be able
track,
to see the
then
hypocrisy of the West, because you see, even when, let us take an example of anti-gay legislation.
right.
When it was taking place, even before the parliamentary process completes, the Western envoys are up in arms.
Right.
Yeah, they will make statements. They will, caution, do what, But the conspicuous silence at this moment in time will tell you there is some negotiation taking place. They might be losing one thing and having a trade-off. Whatever, they must be having a trade-off somewhere.
Right.
But of course, the Ugandan citizens are being kupangad, if I am going to use the Swahili word, tunapangwa,
Right.
as Ugandans. We are just being played and managed. But make no mistake, the West knows what is taking place. The East knows they are trying to pull a fast one. So at the end of the day, the solution lies in in the hands of Ugandans. We are the ones who can change the course of the nation at the moment.
Let us hear from Senior Counsel Semakadde on the state of lawlessness in Uganda and whether the protest is going to go beyond these few days that it has been happening. Counsel Semakadde, do you hear us? Senior Counsel.
Yes, very well.
What are your thoughts on what is going on in Uganda right now? The numerous abductions, the shutdown of the fourth estate, or the attack on the fourth estate, and some of the the issues that Mr. Egesa has pointed out in regard to fast-tracking the coup.
Okay, I would like to start with the issue concerning those who have suffered loss, personal loss today. Dr. Miriam Matembe has been abducted and is now in the belly of the beast. Shudder to imagine what that feels like, but I asked my vice president to visit the husband and commiserate with the family, because the message communication we got is she would like to be represented by the bar. This communication came in as in the course of the week, because she was the subject of unlawful surveillance, which she managed to thwart for only a few days. So I'm actually stepping away from providing leadership to that effort to be here, because I value learning from this space. I also need to take a breather in between different assignments. The other, bittersweet news is my friends Eunice Msime and Stella, who tried valiantly to provide a safety net for Doctor, but it's obvious now that they had underestimated the threat, and they also don't have the appropriate tool and team and kit for this new reality that matches the threat approximately. So it causes us all to rethink what measures we have in place for threats like these to our leaders in civil society, in professional associations, political parties, business, and generally private persons. It turns out that even those in government are not any, actually are probably even far more exposed than we are. But that's
Right.
a scenario. That's a scenario that is coming up. These abductions are not going to stop. They're just going to continue in line with the trajectory my brother calls the expedited coup. I don't know what's the cause of the panic. I personally reflected on this during the representation of Dr. Stella Nyanzi. In fact, it was a point of departure for us. After a point of brief departure, the point I had then was that engaging with the politics a few years shy of Moses' age, if they're not age mates. She and others should have been focused on taking out Mohozi and letting Museveni just rot and collapse and wilt by other circumstances. You know, maybe he came to power through manipulating geopolitical circumstances. Perhaps that's how he'll lose it. If I get what Mr. Egesa is saying. I didn't have the full thesis then clearly, but when the COVID came, I had a chance to understand the cabinet. I did what Mr. Gesa did this time. I sort of looked at that cabinet and I couldn't stop thinking about the position of Attorney General and who the person was going to hold it. This is a person that had, since 2016, not 16, I first met him in 14. He was fully engrossed in NRM business at the time. He had taken up an office in the NRM party. They had rewritten the constitution. They had conducted the defenestration of Amama Mbabazi. They felt unstoppable. So he did these triumphant interviews, declaring how it's the best time of his life and Uganda is the best country in the world. Now, I was able to pull those interviews and look at where he was now and say, okay, he's in cabinet 5 years later. People like those, I worried, never stop. I think the line I made in my essay, which was wrong man for the wrong job, because the wrong man for the wrong job was that he had entered into cabinet without the, the pain, the suffering, the clarifying furnace of an election. You enter an election with one set of assumptions, you come out, a little wiser, or you come out truly who you are, a perfect rogue, a perfect turncoat or something. There's something about the franchise that brings out character or the lack thereof. So I said, well, this person hasn't been measured, hasn't been weighed. So what they are relying on is this professional image and profession and reputation. And we have a market that doesn't really test such representations critically. And so he could actually snatch power, or assessing that he can't snatch it himself, he would make himself a consigliere for somebody like that. And then I realized that these birthday parties and everything that you're seeing now had actually happened before. These people were doing fraternities before. So I sort of signposted that this is the guy that they have sat down as a family and they have assigned him the mission of a cowardly coup. That's his technical name, which is what he had been doing before. Meeting up judges, appointees, and telling them that this is the vote, this is the desire of the president. Sorry, a little family disturbance here.
Yeah. So
anyway, now we're here.
yeah.
They are in triumphant mode again. And I think Egesa has called it right. The message is clear: to hell with democracy. Maybe what I would like to maybe suggest to disagree with is prepare for communism. I think communism is being given a bad rap. Maybe it's fascism.
They want to introduce it through fascism.
It is
the route of
fascism. The
fascism.
arrangements are fascist. First of all, fascists claim a lot of patriotism. It's the foundational ideology because they have no ideology. So they run for these fervent, portrayals or displays of loving the soil so much, dying for it. And then they emulate the charisma of communists. Communist is not a perfect science, but you have to admit that its major proponents in the 19th and 20th century were really charismatic. I mean, who can forget Trotsky and Stalin's desire to have some of that, that charisma, that kind of storytelling is something that fascists want to. Sorry. So anyway, maybe, but the idea of brute force, what we are seeing now, those things, yes, do come in communism at the end. But if you're starting with them, that's like that's perfect Mussolini, that's perfect Nazi, that's like a fascist republic. The summoning of Chwezi and things like that, and claiming these isn't that super race, such kind of flimsy ideologies. But also the idea of I think the other thing, Mr. Egesa, is that at least communism's the pitch for communism is a classless society. A fascists not so much. It's perfect what we see in PLU. I think the president one time called it descendants of NRA. So this class is very important for these people. Very much important. Why would they throw out Kavanda? He's not their class. Something like that. That sort of thing will play out a lot. Yep.
Hey, you haven't seen. I was trying to touch base with what's happening online. Kavanda has been given another assignment
of a sweeper in the office.
No, it's some kind of a PPS.
Not quite, but fair to say. Well, everybody,
you see, why I'm telling you it's some kind of a PPS. He has already started by issuing instructions. One of the instructions is to the to all media houses not to broadcast anything from the National Association of Broadcasters. Then he says all media houses will be restricted to one talk show, political talk show. And the talk shows, the people to be hosted on those talk shows are to be cleared by the office of the chairman, which means the commander is the one receiving the orders and clearing.
Oh, thank you for this update. But well, again, there's a thin line between communism and fascism. I mean, we've seen that stuff, that centralization. But here we're seeing it here. The fascist government is really a brutal for the sake of it. To what end is this? To what end is this other than survival for the fittest, growing power for this fellow? What does Muhoozi want to do with power? The idea that he wants to build roads and what you give a perfect example of Operation Mawat. Mariza
Ufisadi.
Yeah, they can't even conceive an anti-corruption program.
No.
Yeah, so if they can't conceive something, as
There's
simple as
actually
that.
no such operation, I think.
Yes. So I I want to speak about. I mean, you call this the lawlessness. Well, the middle class in Uganda has been in decay, along
Right.
with the state, for some time,
Yeah.
and this had to reach exactly here. We we are outliers. I don't know how we survived, all of us here, but it was rather easy to just perfectly sit where people are in PLU, hold your nose and just look around the ostentation that your school mission school education has given you, the connections, and you'll be happy that you're really leeching from the state and pretending that this is the fruit of your labor. You're brilliant, you're a hotshot, in fact, this country owes you much more and continues to, it's indebted. It should be indebted to you or something like that. That mentality has been imposed, on us. For us, we rejected it, but you can see very clearly the people that bought into it. Some of them now run institutions like media houses. It speaks to the resilience of Ugandan society that people like Nsivirwa, Susan, good pray for her, had a rebellious streak. I guess
Yeah.
I guess that's the saving grace. But there is going to be a perfect class war. I saw that myself firsthand in law, in the law fraternity. The suggestion of it was I could literally have campaigned just naked, as long as it was purely class war. It was game over. So if that let me just stop here for now, I think so. But I think the stage has been set for a perfect storm. And if the politicians don't fuck it up, it's going to be a very exciting time. Thank you.
It's really going to be a very exciting time. It is already an exciting time. I'm going to invite Stella to briefly talk about the various women that have been abducted and those that are being looked at to be abducted shortly, before I call in Egesa to wrap up today's conversation, so that we can see where we are going next. The only thing you haven't talked about, Mr. President, is how long the protest is going to
This was
last.
one day. There is so much request to keep it endless, to drag it, and so on. And I am, of course, for me that pleases me. But at the same time, I am warning my soldiers that war is expensive, and war. Our war is intellectual warfare, and most of them haven't been to the battlefront. So I'm asking them to step up and convince themselves that they can actually fight this war. The conditions are presenting themselves quite well. Mr. Gesa is very aware of the situation. For us, we're preparing for total war. I think the duty now is that the goal has been, the cycle has been successful in the sense that there was disbelief among lawyers that the September Revolution was real. I think they have seen for themselves that we engaged an irreversible process, and the direction is clear. So we managed to totally disarm the charlatans. They have no way of explaining. Mr. Gesa, you are the one who may have been on the internet a little more than I. How are they engaging with the lawyers' strike? They were cocky, they were, we expected them to keep laughing and laugh, but they're not even laughing there. I get the feeling
those voices have gone silent, huh?
Yeah,
those voices have gone silent.
Silenced them.
Yeah. Right, Dr. Stella, as we wrap up, your thoughts about the ladies, the women that have faced injustices in the last couple of days. I'm not sure how much you have heard from Senior Counsel Kaluya, Martha Kaluya. We don't know what is going to happen to Dr. Kizza Besigye's case.
The name is Karua. I don't know if you
Karua.
You have challenges with Kikuyu names.
I have challenges with Kikuyu names, and I shouldn't. Karua. Yeah. Anyway, Dr. Stella, you wrap up, Mr. Egesa, when Dr. Stella is done.
So, I thought you'd respond, Egesa. It sounds like you speak Gikuyu.
No, I don't.
Oh, you
but
don't.
I know how to pronounce their names.
Okay. So look,
and a few words.
Henry, we spent an hour just talking about the women, and I don't know if I can add anything else. I mean, the Martha Karua incident, she's sort of Martha is running for presidency, right? So in a way, she's been, she said in a public statement she won't come back to Uganda until after Museveni is out of power. So okay, she's sort of gone off the scene. I think for me the biggest question, whether it's about Matembe, Birete, Musime, or whoever else, this question. So I will respond by saying that my response is very much related to the perfect class war, thoughts around fascism, and thoughts about triggering, or was it quickening, the coup. So sort of marrying the different ideas from the different, the other two panelists. I think when I was speaking, I talked about two classes, right? It doesn't matter what the distinctions are, what the party is, what the class is, whether you're a civil society organization or not, whether you're very moral and Christian like Matembe, or immoral and not particularly religious like Nyanzi. We're all sort of batched together with Kizza Besigye or Lukwago or Tabs or whoever else, Yasin Machete. And so there are these classes. I think away from thinking about what we've done previously, I think that we have not thought about military coup and how civilians respond to it, right? We've already been prepared in terms of there's the oppressors and the oppressed, an invitation to participate as non-gunned people who are not military by training, by disposition, by preparation, or discipline. We lack the discipline to even prepare. We haven't been prepared to combat or engage or resist or offer any pushback to military onslaught, right? And so I've been in spaces where reignition is happening, but it's not to prepare response to a neo-fascist, brutal, hierarchical takeover. And if it's turning away from the West and to the East, it's even more sinister. And so again, for me, the questions remain about the people's response. The people's response. I know that the takeover, okay, the switch off of NTV, the switch off of Spark TV and Dembe FM, and the closure, or illegal closure of Daily Monitor are all speaking to questions around critical voices. So they want to silence us. They don't want any retaliation, any questioning, any critique, any exposure of the ugliness that they're going to unleash onto us. But again, I don't see, maybe it's too early, I don't see any response that's meaningful. How do we speak back to military shut up of voice? How? When Susan Sebira is disappeared, we don't even, like, how do we speak back, you know? In terms of the confirmation from Isaac, I was asking the question, is Matembe a fugitive on the run, or is she really in the basement? And if feedback from Isaac is fact and not speculation, then we have another one of our warriors down. In terms of the women's response, I have seen women coming together to hold hands and sing songs and talk, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that moves the needle even a tiny bit. So again, the question that I asked the whole first hour, for me, depending on which woman or man we were talking about in terms of what's happened, depending on whether it was radio or newspaper, clearly the battle line is drawn. These guys are really prepared. It seems like it's a small outfit. Actually, I think they've been prepared for a long time. Egesa's question about, is the father totally complicit and in play too, is an important question whose answer determines modes of appeal. But is it a time to appeal or a time to fight back? And for me, the fighter spirit says we shall not appeal, we should organize. But how does one organize in the face of coup d'etat? I haven't seen very successful people's protests or resistance to military coup without organizing. And again, for me, I see a consciousness raising. People are like, hey, tukolechi. And some are paralyzed, some are sort of fatalistic, but there's anger, there's bubbling anger. And I think response with disjointed anger of an unprepared corpse of people who lack direction, lack guidance, and are just riding with the sentiment of enough is enough, and a lot of raw anger is not good enough. But who am I to judge? Who am I to judge the people's protest? So again, I think for me that leadership is important, coming together, not so much away from our political parties. It could also be within our political party factions or our civil society organizations, but coming together as a people around the coup and the militarization. And I think your beginning point, Henry, of we don't come to these spaces to contest the military is the wrong position for me. My posture is the military are coming to get us, okay? To take everything, all power away from us. And my posture is not one to say I'm not coming against that. My posture is to say, how do we effectively counter this and not die in the process? So maybe one of the successes of the lawyers' protest, a little model that one can take away, is a little bit of fight and retreat, right? Maybe a sensible way, because they're still alive, they're still standing, they made the statement. But if it's the coup that's coming, and it is the coup, how? And I think one of the things that Egesa said is the people must prepare. So without having a response to just the closure of Daily Monitor, that happened a few hours ago. It's not a whole day ago,
Not
without
yet.
effective coordinated response. And then two important women actors, the civil society organization actors, Sarah Birete, who is politically aligned to ANT, and Eunice Musime, who has been a long-time organizer, and of course, Miriam Matembe, who is sort of the grandmother of all women activists in Uganda. The whole women frontline, all the women battalions are frozen. All they did was to come together and sing songs and issue statements. That does not do anything to the military. So questions, the last point, Henry, and I know the questions are around how come the ambassadors and foreign envoys in the West were able to respond to the Anti-Homosexuality Act, and they haven't done anything right now, yet they are both apparent evils unfolding in Uganda. I think being a close ally to the LGBTIQA plus community in Uganda, there's a lot of organizing. There's a lot of coordinated organizing. It wasn't just mere grief and anger that a law had come to kill, because these guys have come to kill us, right? Come to kill our movements, come to take away our freedoms. There was a lot of painful, deliberate organizing and tapping into transnational solidarities and organizing of resources. We can't organize without resources. We can't. And thinkers were leading, the foot soldiers who were leading, the ambassadors abroad who were coordinating things, and we made many mistakes, but that is how come we were able to sort of poke and prod the different ambassadors, sometimes through their embassies, but many times through their foreign departments outward, who put the pressure inward. Now, I don't see anything similar as yet happening. And maybe, like I said last week, one of the things would be to tap into previous diasporic organizings, to waken them and bring them back to the mission, because some of them lost. But again, that is the work of leadership. That's the work of leadership. Who are the leaders that are coming up? I think ULS has shown us some leadership. The women's movement are rising. Who are the leaders speaking for the media fraternity? Who are the leaders going to speak? And we have to come together quickly, especially if the coup is catalyzed. Also, if there are all these sort of mistakes that are happening left, right, and center, because their own preparation is not as thorough as they would want one to believe. So I think just for me, there are more questions than answers. And maybe there is there's a bit of trepidation, a bit of fear around the lack of preparedness as a mass of potential combatants. Ugandan people are not ready. I'm in another space where young people, like I'm in a space right now where young people are calling for arms, and like unarmed students and professionals are saying, "Mutwe byuma, mutwe mundu, tugenda kurwana." But is that the way to go? So there's a boldness right now. We used to talk about non-violence engagement purely, but right now people are unashamed to be in spaces saying, "Mutwe mundu, tugenda baranyisa na mundu, mundu zezetagisa." I just don't see coordinated preparation. And because the guys are on silent, I just wanted to say, Alan Kasuja, I gave Alan Kasuja his very first typewriter. So I had a typewriter as a mass communication student. I bought with my boom. Alan wanted to practice writing. He didn't know how to type. And so he borrowed, I was in CCE, he used to come every evening to borrow my typewriter, and he'd sleep with it. And on the week, he'd take it on Friday and bring it back on Monday. So he'd take it on for the weekend. And so in terms of how far the lawyers, and then Andrew Mwenda was my classmate, mass communication from first year all the way to third year. So the two comms people, the two communications experts on the PLU.
Andrew Mwenda is not there as a communications expert. He's
whatever he's there as.
He's on PLU as a political strategist, and And the funny thing is, he's some kind of vice president. He's PO002.
If he's 002 and is in charge of strategy, or
are you sure? Are you sure? It's not Nwajira.
No, it is Andrew Mwenda who is PO002.
Wow.
No, in structure, it is Nwajira as vice chairman. But when the numbers were allocated, Andrew Mwenda is PO002.
He wrote the
Okay.
numbers.
So my point was, in terms of a response to the media close, the attack on the media, which is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. I think critical media are going to be attacked much more, and I'm waiting for the attack on us who are operating on YouTube spaces and blogs and all these online digital spaces. The surprise for me is, well, it's not surprising, but the disappointment is that both Alan and Andrew are not small-time media practitioners. The laws we have, Charles Onyango, Bo and Mwenda, the ones around communication that are taught and waved at everybody around freedom of the media, have both, Andrew as well as Alan's face in terms of our global representative, the BBC, and all of that. And so the failure of the logic of the coup makers, for me, is what is happening in media happened in law. To have all those lawyers in the lineup of the hierarchy of PLU are a similar replica, exact replica with the media. They took the best of our brains to shit on us within communications. And I think what they're doing to Monitor and NTV is what they did to Lukwago. But tubaswaze tubambule tubajjeko engoye tubalaga obusolo mwepamire. This is, and what are people going to do? And so in terms of a response, I think for me, we have to go away from the previous call, which was let us organize non-violently. Let us organize to non-violent attack. Okay, that was Dr. Kizza Besigye's call, was let us be non-violent. But now that we are facing real violence, whether it's by the gun or through the failure of both the rule of law protections or the freedom of voice provisions, free speech, free media speeches, protections, how do we respond to this military onslaught? I don't see us organizing well enough. Thanks for the space, Henry.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Stella. My point about not contesting the military is in regard to the fact that it's within the jurisdiction of our constitution. So we want it to stay constitutional and not be used outside of the prescriptions of the constitution. What powers does the constitution accord the army? How should the army operate within the democratic institutions that we have, and how should we keep our army officers accountable? Because it seems right now that there's no accountability. Most generals, as we discussed last weekend, are quiet right now. The only general is speaking out has been Kahindo Tafire, and he doesn't seem to have influenced many of his colleagues to join him in keeping the military personnel or officers accountable. Specifically, the CDF, who shouldn't be involved in the politics of our country. I think the CDF should be in the same space as cultural leaders, shouldn't be actively engaging in politics. But Mr. Egesa, your thoughts as we wrap up? I don't know if Mr. President has any more anything else to add on, but yeah, Mr. Egesa.
Yeah, yesterday I was hosted on the Capital Gang, and I made a few comments when I saw how people were framing them on social media and sharing them. So many relations have sent me messages telling me all sorts of things, so I did allude to the soldier and the state. Isaac says he gave that book to Aaron Kiza, and You know, I made comments that if you go by you know, a number of scholars who have written about civil military relations. So I picked out Samuel Huntington's 1957 classic, The Soldier and the State, and dwelt a lot on the overriding thesis in that book. That if you are in a democratic state where you want to have a military that is subordinate to civilian authority, it means that the soldier is supposed to be politically sterile. But have we, for example, in the last 40 years of Uganda's politics of NRM, NRA, have we had any moment where the military has been politically sterile? The answer is no. So, in that case,
Right.
if we follow Huntington's views, we have not had, we are yet to have objective civilian authority over our politics. So then that leaves us with what he calls subjective civilian authority, which of course opens the window for all forms of governance to come in, which can be classified as dictatorships, classified as, you know, fascist regimes, as communist regimes, autocracies. Now we actually seem to be heading to the direction of what is called a stratocracy. A stratocracy puts military rule in the law books. The military elevates itself above other arms of government. The judiciary becomes subservient to military rule. The legislature becomes subservient and subordinate to military rule. So in practice, we seem to be already there, but we seem to be on the journey towards that direction. So any fight back or push back from the Ugandan citizens should be really to, just one word, to demilitarize. You know, when I said Isaac was a modern day John the Baptist the other day, the choice of words on his R&B manifesto, decolonize, demilitarize,
Right.
those words were quite timely and prophetic. So as Ugandans, if you ask me what is the solution, you know, to the Uganda's political problems, I will give, if you ask me to give only one word, I will say first, demilitarize. We need to demilitarize. And we cannot repeat the same mistake which has happened in the past to think that a group of military men will help us to demilitarize.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. You know, even the Bible says you cannot ask Satan to drive out demons. So for us to demilitarize, we need some kind of maybe chaos or turbulence where the citizens take up the matter to demilitarize. And you know, that with the disadvantages that come with that path, it seems to me like the most feasible and guaranteed path to, you know, to getting ourselves from the curse of militarization that we seem to be under, and seems to be going on and on and on. Now, I also wanted to point out that
I hope that's not going to work in the advantage of the current CDF. to take over the country and then try to stabilize it himself and create some kind
No,
of
but I've already
citizenry.
told you we cannot rely on military men to demilitarize. We need the citizens to take charge.
Okay.
There is another development that is happening around East Africa.
Mm.
You know, I have been reading a few minutes ago, I was reading what is in the news in Kenya.
Right.
In this past week, there has been a heated exchange between a former, the heir to Moi's estate and the sitting head of state who was a Moi protege, who happens now to be head of state.
Right.
It's been a battle where for him, he has actually, maybe you could say he's a better communicator, but his complaints are more pointed than the ones of our CDF here, who has ended up closing Nation Media. But President Ruto went for Standard Media Group. He went bare knuckles.
Right.
Yeah, he called them blackmailers. He called them extortionists.
Interesting.
Yeah, but the complaints he was raising are not new. They were a result of him trying to apply the methods that have been applied here in Uganda in the last 30 years or so before. I mean, methods of giving adverts to a media house that the state considers unfriendly, and then after you refuse to pay. You know, you're basically trying to economically strangle the media house. So President Ruto did that. His government refuses to pay. And then after they refuse to pay, he calls them extortionists because they are demanding for their money. So they also went bare knuckles. Even before he attacked them, they came up with a two-part series, which they called Ruto's Lies, Part 1, and Ruto's Lies, Part 2. That was a blockbuster. you should look for it. KTN did Ruto's Lies Part 1 and Ruto's Lies Part 2. Right. Now, which makes it even more worrying for them, only that Kenya is now having more democratic space than we do. It has a more litigious society than we do. But when you compare that with what NTV has been doing here and what Daily Monitor has been doing here, you look at what the Nation Media Group has been doing in Uganda as child's play. NTV has tried to use satire in their pieces on the CDF. They have not gone the way KTN has gone. KTN went bare knuckles, actually. Yeah?
It was also quite humorous. I watched the Ruto's Lies, both of them, and I thought it was comedy, but then I saw his response, because it was and it's in Kiswahili where he's promising to make a bridge, one of the bridges. I think that's one, right? Ruto's Lies one. But yeah, I mean, compared to what they did, NTV was very mild.
Very, very mild. Yeah. And so if NTV has attracted that kind of response, I wonder, because you see, I think it is about time that East African citizens now have a community-wide conversation as citizens, not leaving it to the leaders. Why? Because what Ruto is trying to do is to walk back some of the gains that came from the 2010 Constitution. And it's not difficult to see that he's likely to lead them down the route.
Remember, he opposed it.
Yes?
Remember, he opposed it.
Exactly, he opposed the Constitution. Yes, he led the no side in the referendum. So he doesn't believe in the Constitution. Actually, one of the points that were raised in the campaign was that how can you vote for a guy who opposed the Constitution? And even when he was taking oath, when they handed him the constitution, he quickly pressed it aside. When they handed him the sword, he raised it. As if to signal. I mean, okay, Mtata was pointing that out. Senator Mtata was saying, as if this guy was sending a clear message that mine will be ruled by the sword.
I'm coming
Now,
for you.
Yeah. And then abductions took center stage. And that's how some clever East Africans redrew the map of East Africa, of the original 3 East African states. And they named us Abdakistan. That was, I think, in the immediate aftermath of the abduction of Dr. Kizza Besigye in Nairobi, and then followed by his return, his transportation to Uganda and handover to the Ugandan authorities. So Uganda is we are just at different stages. Tanzania, Uganda, and then Kenya. But Kenya, of course, history aside, the interests of the Western world make it very difficult for an overbearing character now to take them in a direction that we are seeing here. But then also the Western world, since the 1982 incident, and even then, what made the 1982 incident impossible to succeed, the military failed to succeed, was the intervention of the Western world, especially the British and the Americans. So the role of the military in Kenya is, to a good degree, moving towards political sterility. So that is something that that puts them in at least more comfortable ground, where they can have political agitation without the military coming into the fray. Because you see, when the military comes into the fray, it makes it unbalanced agitation. They are coming with guns. They are coming with intimidation. So other players are starting from a point of disadvantage. So that's why the political agitators in Kenya are at least at a different, they're in a different situation altogether compared to what is in Uganda and maybe Tanzania. So really, the East African citizens now are looking at Kenya as big brother to help. I have seen efforts by some citizens in Kenya to try and force a summit of East African heads of state, and their target is the CDF here. I don't know how successful that effort will be, and whether the treaty provides for a summit. Isaac can guide on that one. If the treaty provides for a summit being called because of petitions presented by the citizens. So by and large, that's where we are. I think the question that Dr. Nyanzi has been asking about organization. When you block the path of water, I want to answer it in that way. When you block the path of water, it will go through your garden, or it will run over your tarmac if it's a road. And water is the most dangerous thing to tarmac, or it will run through your compound. I think I will leave it at that. But once water is moving, it has to move. If you block it, yeah, it will find a way.
It will find a way, indeed. Thank you so much again, Mr. Egesa, and thank you so much to all of you guys for sharing your insights about what is happening in Uganda. It is clear that Uganda's challenge is not, it's military, really. I think its military is that the military remains constitutional, because as we know, history teaches us something very important, that strong armies defend republics and that they should never replace them. So the future of Uganda will not be determined by the strength of its guns. It will be determined by the strength of its institutions. And the central question here remains to be that will the gun continue serving the law, or will the law increase how the gun is managed? And I think that is something that we need to look at very closely and see how we manage, how the military participates in these spaces. So it's a pleasure to interact with you.
Maybe if you just give me a second. What I forgot to mention is that I think we are at a phase where the crackdown is targeting institutions and leaders of institutions.
Right.
So I suspect that the next phase is going to go for individuals after the institutional layer has been dealt with. So the next target is likely to be individuals, let's say influential individuals on social media. Because now once you have beaten the mainstream media into submission, then now you target influencers, because many influencers have bigger audiences than even these mainstream media that we're talking about. So they will then be targeted. And so that is what the Ugandan people have to prepare for. Some of these voices will be silenced and there will be no institutions to fight for them. We are likely to end up with only the Uganda Law Society as the only civil society organization left standing, and simply because of its statutory DNA. So we need to be aware of that. Thank you. Sorry for coming back.
No, it's okay. Thank you so much. So, and I guess this is yes, sir.
Henry.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know about this Rabogo thing. I'm just looking at it. You discussed it earlier.
No, we didn't discuss it.
It has been sent to me by Grand Mullah.
Okay. So we did discuss it. But,
I talked about it on the Capital Gang yesterday, and everyone wanted to run away from it.
So I think let us not talk about it now. Let us give it a week to sink in to some people. But anyways, thank you so much, everyone. So it's a pleasure to have you. To all those who are following us, we truly appreciate you folks joining us. For people who are offering comments, we follow you, we see you, we thank you. Thank you so much again for following us. Let us meet again next Sunday or between the week, depending on what is happening. So it's a pleasure to serve you. Keep supporting each and every one of us, especially the voices that are now in this space, especially given what is happening in Uganda, where mainstream media is being shut down. I think these are going to remain the only avenues where we can have contestations of ideas and a proper examination of what is happening in Uganda. Thank you so much. God bless you. My name is Henry.
This is the state of the nation. Rifa Mwanga. We are deliberate, we are reasonable, we are uncensored. The state of the nation with Henry Ssali.